Hello everyone, welcome again to my channel. Thanks for joining. I hope you're doing well. So as you can see, we are still dealing with some lessons and topics related to the teaching profession, the teaching job, and these lessons are very important for all those who want to apply for teaching professions, either in public sector or private sector. So today's lesson is something to do with teachers' roles, which means the roles that the teacher has. But I'm not going to give you a list of roles that the teacher has, because this is something that I covered a long time ago, and I have an episode about this. You can just go and check on my channel, you will find it. So today, in this episode, we are going to talk about the factors, okay? The factors that affect the teacher's roles. What are the factors that affect your roles, or dictate some roles, or specify some of your roles in your classroom or in teaching in general? Now, the first factor that interfere in the teacher's roles is what we call the approaches or the method you use. Okay, the methods and approaches you adopt in your classroom teaching. Now, how do you think these approaches and methods can interfere in identifying and specifying your roles in classroom? Now, imagine, for example, if you adopt the humanistic approach. For sure, in your classroom, you will care a lot for your students, you will pay attention a lot to students' feelings, etc. So this approach, humanistic approach, interferes in your role in classroom. Now, if you adopt, for example, the silent way as a method of teaching, silent way, for sure, one of your role in classroom, you will be silent. In classroom, you will be silent. You just monitor student speaking, okay? Just help, assistant in the classroom. You will not be speaking, okay? You will not be an input provider. No, in this method. If you adopt, for example, the grammar translation method, one of your roles in the classroom is that you will be a kind of translator. So this is it. So in general, this is just some examples. You can think of several ones. This how approaches and methods interfere in the specifying and identification of your role in the classroom. If you adopt, for example, eclecticism, you will have a lot of roles, okay? A lot of roles according to the what you take from each method. Okay, so this is number one. Approaches and methods play a role in your job in classroom. Number two, very essential, is your philosophy of teaching, okay? Your philosophy of teaching. How do you view teaching and learning? So your view of teaching and learning, your perspective toward teaching and learning will interfere in the selection of your role in classroom. Now, imagine, for example, if you adopt a philosophy based on the hypothesis by Stephen Krashen, which is the dean head, which means that the learner in classroom should be exposed to a lot of inputs in classroom. For sure, you will be talking a lot in classroom. You will talk a lot. Your TTT will be high. Therefore, so this is based on your philosophy of teaching. Now, imagine again if your philosophy or part of your philosophy of teaching is that teachers should not stick 100% to the textbook, should go beyond the textbook, and this is what we call the GBT. Okay, GBT, going beyond the textbook. For sure, he will be a course designer. He will design a lot of activities, a lot of tasks, a lot of maybe exercises, lessons, and so on. So this is because of this philosophy, the GBT, going beyond the textbook. This is only one example of a philosophy of teaching that you might have. If you might have other ones, for sure, you will have other roles. So your philosophy of teaching interferes in your role as a teacher. Number three, is what we call the curriculum. And the curriculum is identified and designed by the state, by policy makers, by decision makers. So when we talk about curriculum is a set of activities, a set of objectives, standards, experiences, maybe tasks, even assessment and evaluation that you should stick to while teaching. So the curriculum also interfere in your way of teaching, in your roles in teaching. So your role will be to a far extent affected by the curriculum. Okay. Number 4, this is also very important, is the learner. Okay. So learner is a very important factor that affects your role. Okay. And when we talk about the learner, we talk about the level of learners. So the level of learners can interfere in your role. Okay. Also, the age of learners. If you are teaching adults, it's not like teaching young ones, it's not like teaching kids, for example, or children, so teenagers, etc. So learner plays a role or affects your role in your classroom teaching. Okay. The last one is we can talk about the state or school policy or even philosophy. So the state you are working with and the school where you work, they may have a certain policy or a certain philosophy of teaching in general and education in general. So this policy and philosophy might affect your role in your classroom. Okay. Now, if for instance, if the school's philosophy or policy is having classrooms with a large number of students, for sure your role will differ. If, for example, the policy or philosophy of teaching of the school or state is to have a very small number of learners in each group, this will also change your role in classroom. So this is only an example. So states or schools or government policy or philosophy of education in general affects to a far extent your role in classroom. So these are some examples of factors that affect your role in your classroom teaching. I have given you only simple examples for each. You can think of other examples related to each factor and just use it to justify your role in your classroom. See you in another episode with another lesson. Have a good time. Goodbye. Again, if you have any question or suggestion, never hesitate to let me know. See you in a new or another lesson. Have a good time and goodbye.